Alright, we're going to be taking apart the Xbox One Elite controller today. This is a T8 screwdriver. This is going to be needed to get into the outside shell. We're going to bypass these security bits. Uh, Also, to get into the outside shell, we're going to need maybe just a selection of small flathead screwdrivers or plastic pry tools. Here, what you're going to see in a second is a drill bit. This is a size 5/64, a 1/8, or a 1/16 will work as well. We're also going to be accompanying that with the drill. I'll get into that here in a minute. Don't worry about that for now. So let's start by taking all of the loose bits off of the outside of the controller. This includes all of the magnetic parts and, of course, the batteries, things like that. So once we have that done, we can go ahead and use our flathead screwdriver to pop off these side grips right here, which will reveal the majority of our screws. On the outside here, we're going to have 5 total screws, so just be aware of that. When you see me pop this first piece off, you're going to see what looks like a part breaking off and flying to the right. That is not anything breaking. Don't worry about that. This is where we're going to use our drill bits. So we have these security TORX bits here, and I'm going to be drilling the pin through the center. The goal here isn't to drill the pin out, but rather to just break it off. And you'll see how mine breaks off very easily. This is a method I've used for years now, and it's always worked well for me. So here you can see I'm about to pull this pin out. It just breaks right off, and now this will accept a T8 bit. A T9 and T10 even will work as well. So here I'll point out all 5 screws around the outside edge of the controller, and you can see all of them just right there. Just pull them out and we'll be ready to take the face off, and we'll be ready to take the back of the controller off. Alright, so the face comes right off, and we'll take the back off here in a second. You'll see I just kind of carefully work the back off. It's loose, it's ready to come off. I just want to make sure to be careful right there. That is the switch for your selector for your programmable buttons. Make sure you don't lose that. There's going to be a zillion small parts in this thing, so I'd recommend staying very organized while you're taking this apart, just so you don't lose any of the parts or any of the screws. So again, just kind of work it off from the front here. Just carefully work it out, and when you get it off, don't yank it away, don't pull it away or anything. We'll have a ribbon cable attached, and you can see it revealed right there. Ribbon cable is very easy to get out. You just need to pull it out just like this, and the ribbon cable's out. Alright, so let's work on this bottom shell real quick. We're going to take off 2 screws with a T6 screwdriver. We no longer have any security bits in the entirety of the controller, so don't worry about that. So we got 2 T6 screws right here. We're going to go ahead and pull those out, and that will loosen up this PCB so we can just pull it right out, just like that. There's a rubber bit for the bottom buttons that are going to be on the bottom there, so just be aware of that. Now we're going to look at the 2 magnets in there. We're going to pull those out as well. So just right there and there, we've got 2 neodymium magnets. You may also want to be aware that there's a sticky side on the bottom of them, so if you're looking to reuse them or something like that, you know, try not to get that sticky side caught on anything or dirty or anything like that. So as you can see, I just used 2 screwdrivers to easily pry them from the bottom and pull the tab off the side. Next, we're looking at these 2 screws. There's one on either side. As you can see, I've already taken one side off. Just pull those 2 screws off, and a few little parts in a spring will come out. That is actually for the hair triggers on the Xbox Elite controllers. And the last part for the bottom shell, we have the series battery connector. Just right here, little metal part. So we're going to want to pry up from the inside. You'll see me pry up just a little bit, and I'll just start kind of working it out a little bit, and then we'll kind of flip the controller over and just get the rest of the way out from the other side. So right there, that's pried plenty. Again, I'm just kind of messing with it here a little bit. Okay, so we flip it over. We're going to kind of want to push down you'll see it here in a second. You're going to kind of want to push down on either of these tabs. Just push them down and then push them up, and it'll come right out, go right in just as easy when we put it back together. And that is it. That is the bottom shell completely done. Let's work on the frame now. So the frame, as you can see, just real quick, I have taped my rumble motors. There's no actual need to do this. I just did that so they wouldn't fall out while I was filming, so I wouldn't be fumbling around with them. There's 2 screws that we need to take out to get this top circuit board out. So there's one right here, and there's one directly on the other side, both right next to the rumble motors. We just need those 2 screws out, and then we're ready for our next step. Okay, so next what I'm doing obviously is I'm going to pry out this circuit board just very gently. There's a lot of sensitive components here. You may want to use a plastic pry tool, but once you pry it up, there's 2 headers that connect to the bottom circuit board. That's what we're prying it off. Just make sure it's nice and loose, and don't try to yank it out just yet. I'm going to flip it over here and take out the right analog, and that is the only analog you'll need out to get this circuit board out. Also note right there, you'll see my headphone jack. I also worked that out. Again, you see that fall out, it didn't break or anything. It just sits in there loose. It'll come right out. So here, as you can see, I took my my right analog, or I'm pulling that out, and then we'll move on to the next step to get this circuit board out. Before you see my next step, stop a second. This is going to intimidate a lot of people. Don't let it. Even you're going to see me pull out a soldering iron. If you have no experience with a soldering iron, if you have little experience, if they intimidate you, if that's what's keeping you from repairing your controller, taking it apart, whatever, don't let it. This is a very easy solder job. I'm not getting in very close on this, but in a second I'm going to get in closer just to show you all these contact points. There's 8 total wires that we need to take out. A red and a black, and a gray and a black on either side. Again, I'm going to show the pads where they set nice and easily. For when you do this at home, you can go ahead and just use your camera, take a picture of them. That way you can make sure you know exactly where they go back into place. But anyways, you can see on either side there's 4 pads that I'm about to point at. Negative plus, each one's labeled, and it's labeled the exact same way on the other side. We'll get another look here in a second. Of course, the negative is ground, the positive is positive, and so that will correlate, each of the positives will correlate to either the red or the gray wire. Each of the ground wires will be one of the black wires. Those are for all your rumble motors, so you've got 2 rumble motors in the triggers, and of course you've got 2 rumble motors in the handle of your controller. Alright, so the bottom circuit board on the frame, we're going to take out 6 screws. You'll see me point out 5 here. I missed one in the middle real quick, but just be aware there is one and more in the middle. So for a total of 6. Again, I'm using a T6. From here on in, these screws and the next screws I'll take out will all prefer a T5 driver. T6 was the smallest I had, and it does work. So you can see I taped the triggers. You can go ahead and remove the circuit board now if you'd like to, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the area that I pointed out. Right there where I'm pointing with my screwdriver, there's usually a tab there, but I accidentally broke mine. It's not a big deal if you break yours, but this will come off in the exact same way you see me take it off here. So each of the right and left buttons on the top of the controller has a little tab, and there are 2 more little pins in the middle holding this on. And the last thing that holds it in place is the Xbox button. So what you're going to want to do is kind of make sure it's just loose right there on the bottom. Pull out that one side on the buttons, pull up on this, and then just get under that Xbox button, and you'll be able to easily pull it off. Reassembly on that is actually very confusing, but in my reassembly video, real quick, you see me pull off that green button. Make sure you don't lose that, it will fall out. Anyways, reassembly is difficult on that part, but on my reassembly video I'll show you how to easily get it back in. Anyways, the circuit board can freely come out now. Of course, we can get all of the buttons out and the pad for all of the buttons. So if you dump your controller over at this point, it will spill the buttons everywhere. So just go ahead and be careful. Take out all the buttons. You really don't want to lose anything. When we put ours together, we're going to be replacing a bunch of these parts, customizing controllers. So in that regard, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you still really don't want to lose these parts. Real quick, I'm going to show you how to take off the rest of the D-pad. It's unlikely that you'll need to take this out, but just in case, there's a tab right up front there where you see my eyeglass screwdriver prying away at. It's easiest to get right here from the bottom side of the frame, but my screwdriver isn't quite skinny enough to fit well in there, so you see me fumble around with it here a little bit. It comes off super easy though. Anyways, there, I got it just there. So that comes off, and it frees up the rest of the D-pad. There's magnets in the bottom of it that magnetically hold on, whichever D-pad you're using for the Elite controller. I'm going to go ahead and put it right back in just now because I don't have any reason to pull it out. And the last step here, we're going to get into the triggers. So the triggers, first thing, we're going to want to get these wires out and off of the plastic frame here and just free up those wires. And then there are 2 screws on either trigger. We're going to pull each of those screws. Again, I'm using a T6, and again, this will prefer a T5. T6 will work. And once you remove those 2 screws, right there, that's the last screw removed. The triggers just come right out with the rumble motors, no problem, easy peasy. And that is it. It's the last thing. You can see we've stripped the frame completely, aside from the actuators there. We're not going to take those off today, but there it is. There's a full disassembly of the Xbox One Elite controller. I'd rate this disassembly maybe a moderate difficulty, just because of the amount of parts that actually come off of your controller is fairly substantial. But if you stay well organized, make sure you keep all your parts in check, you shouldn't have any problems taking this apart. Other than that, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. If this helped you, if you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like so that other people can see it. Give it a like so that you can find it again. No need to subscribe. I don't post content regularly, so other than that, anyways, thanks guys. Hope this helped.